So, hi everyone. Thanks a million for joining today. I do hope you find this presentation useful. Please do ask questions in the chat box to the side and put them in when you think of them. And then at the end of the presentation, I'll come back and I'll answer all of your questions. So firstly, a little bit about me. So my name is Cait Mulcahy. I am a proud Limerick woman all my life. I have been a ridiculous nerd for most of my life. And I have been a 3 employee for a considerable part of my life. So in October, I hit the 15-year milestone, and I've worked in various roles and positions within the organisation, from customer care all the way through to where I am right now as head of capability and automation. So I'm here to talk to you today about how automation has quickly become a key lever to drive business and customer transformation. And this session will bring you on the journey of how we approached and scaled our automation journey from concept to a centre of excellence, and where that sits within our overall transformation journey. And so firstly, I'd like to take you back to a couple of years ago when 3 Ireland were nearing the end of a multi-year organisation-wide programme of work to merge and upgrade our CRM and billing platform. So this was an enormous piece of work, and it consumed almost all resources within 3. And resulted in us, to a large extent, standing still with regards to things like innovation. So as we were then nearing the end of that large programme of work, we knew that there would need to be a concerted piece of work to evolve us into the digital service provider that we strived to be. And a big theme for us was paradigm shift, which is defined by Thomas Kuhn as a fundamental change in approach or underlying assumption. And so if everything is going to change, how will we cope? And we had been very comfortable with the status quo, but everything was about to change as a result of that CRM and billing platform upgrade and its various associated programs. And we needed to be ready, and to be ready, we needed to understand the factors affecting our future. And there were a number of factors, certainly, that we wanted to capitalise upon, and as a result had noted within our own company strategy. We wanted to explore new revenue streams, and things like IoT and beyond mobile were going to be huge. And we had a plan on how we were going to be able to support that, but it wasn't going to be easy. So all of our infrastructure was geared to support 2.3 million connected devices in the future. That, we were anticipating that we could have up to 20 million connected devices. Data is now more valuable than oil, and apparently could even become more valuable in the future. So we needed to be ready to mine and package our data so that we could benefit from this new revenue stream. Also, personalization has been a big topic for us for a long time. It is obviously the panacea for customer relationships, but we know it has to be symbiotic, benefiting both parties equally, yin and yang, in balance. And robotic automation or chatbots are a potential game changer for us, using things like complex scripting tools like UiPath or complex chat platforms to enable our employees to become more effective and efficient, and using this type of technology to improve our customer experience. We had the potential to be a leading force within our organisation in delivering this technology innovation cross-functionally. So what was clear is that 3's business strategy required a digital strategy programme to support the goal of becoming that digital service provider. So in the wake of that context and the large transformation programme that preceded it, to help us get organised, we kicked off our own digital strategy. This would guide us towards transforming into a digital service provider. And there were a number of different work streams identified as opportunities to go after. And this is where our journey began with automation. And this set the context of the 5-year journey that we commenced back in 2019. And there was also an opportunity to turn things on its head. So one of my favourite pastimes is movies. And this is a screenshot from Inception, where the town folds in over on itself in one of those dream things. And I think we needed to ask, we're pretty comfortable and know what we're at. And as a business, we're good at building new capability in a services-centric approach. We know our stakeholders and what their needs are. And now we're looking at delivering a service out to the entire organisation. Where were we going to start? And so this was the challenge put to the team. And, maybe let's think about this. So We were consciously incompetent, for want of a better phrase, as we moved into that process. We recognized that we were all novices in this space and we wanted to learn more. We held workshops where we articulated what was important to three. These then became the foundations of our pillars that we use, and I'll talk about in a little bit later. We formed a truly cross-functional team with backing from our executive leadership. We had representatives from every single directorate within the organisation on our core team. And we executed a rapid pre-qualification phase at the start of our procurement phase as a means of learning what it is we needed to know about before we moved directly into a full RFP. Together, we developed a charter of what it was we were hoping to achieve, where we articulated our strategic alignment, the objective, the opportunity, and the value we anticipated to achieve. So, and I'm going to delve a little bit further into the value piece now to really get under the hood of what we foresaw as being our actual benefits. So, freeing up FTE time for more tactical purposes, of course. Accuracy and compliance are particularly important for our colleagues in finance when you consider tax and financial returns and the associated implications or penalties arising from any errors. FTE reductions, we recognised, may be a byproduct of some projects, but certainly was not going to be the main focus of our team. NPS score improvements, so customer-facing portals and applications will respond quicker. No errors in rekeying of data should lead to improved customer experiences. So these were the benefits that we foresaw. But as we were in that state of being consciously incompetent and had a thirst for learning, we formed these 5 pillars that we all agreed upon and used these as part of our engagement with our vendors. And we saw these being as important to us as we were commencing on our automation journey, as we needed to learn as much as we could. So firstly, a proof of concept, or in fact a pilot, which is what we wanted to conduct to prove the value and prove that in fact this intelligent automation was a viable strategy for 3 Ireland. A centre of excellence. So from research and trade fairs, we could see that this was a frequently utilised method of scaling. But we also saw different flavours of this, from federated to centralised, hub and spoke, onshore, nearshore, offshore, hybrid, you name it. And we wanted to learn more about this so we could decide what would actually be the best fit for us. We're aware of the technology leaders from a systems perspective, but we wanted to know which technology or which system would work best for 3 Ireland and our infrastructure. Measurement was a big thing for us also. We needed to be able to clearly evidence the ROI of these initiatives, and we wanted to know the best way to do this and what tools were out there that could support us with this. And lastly, our destination over 5 years is to be an accomplished intelligent automation centre. So we wanted to know what we should consider now in support of that future scalability and extensibility. So we used these pillars to learn as much as we could from prospective vendors. We then progressed through an RFP and brought on board a partner to support us with getting a pilot up and running, and in parallel, helping us form the foundations for an automation programme. So, and I'll speak super quickly now about the pilot that we ran. So this is a 1-pager of the process that we followed for the pilot. So we identified the business areas to going after as being within the finance and the people and property functions. We conducted workshops with various SMEs within these functions and gathered a first pass list of the processes and potential candidates for automations. These processes were then assessed as to how suitable they were for automation, as well as what the potential return would be. The top 2 processes were then progressed into the RPA lifecycle, and all the other processes then were added into the process backlog. The 2 processes then progressed through the life cycle of define, design, build, test, deploy, and monitor. In parallel, we had already commenced work to build out our benefits realisation, and we commenced work to define our robotic operating model, including the defining of the skills and the roles required. And additionally, my team worked by side, embedded in working with the vendor, shadowing exactly what they were doing to get on the job learning, so that as soon as the vendor left, we would be able to pick up straight away. So this was the process that we followed, but I would be lying if I said that this was seamless. We absolutely encountered delays and blockers, particularly on the IT enablement side of the house. However, we adapted to these delays and we made the most of what we had because we needed to box clever and we needed to deliver on our commitment to our executive leadership, in addition to being able to lay the groundwork for growing our capability and building our centre of excellence. And we needed to progress in earnest with building out that cross-functional automation program. And again, the whole thing about box clever is sometimes in the pursuit of what we think we need to get to, we can be targeting perfection. And a lot of the time, sometimes good is good enough. So again, it was a question of, you know what, as part of our aspiration to become a digital service provider, we're moving into this agile business, this test and learn type thinking. And maybe we need to set ourselves those standards. So in addition to progressing through the pilot and ironing out those technical issues, another one of the ways that we built up our business case was to complete a review blitz across the organization to build our backlog of opportunities through workshops, awareness sessions, lunch and learn sessions. It was also at this stage that I should point out that our partner had now completed their work and we were flying solo. So this information, combined with the learnings and the outputs from the pilot, were then presented to our executive leadership team, where we attained sign-off to establish our Centre of Excellence. So building out a Centre of Excellence. So we've done lots of research in parallel with our partner that we had employed, and we had formed on a plan and I suppose a playbook on what we would need to do to build our Centre of Excellence. We produced a vision, articulated our objectives, settled on a centralised approach for a Centre of Excellence. We built our team. We went for a hybrid team of a combination of direct hires and BPO uplift in our offshore partner. We formed an automation champions forum. We then also centralised disparate skill sets into a single Centre of Excellence. So where some platforms that would be utilised from an automation perspective, if they sat across various teams, we brought them all together under the one banner. We then worked on building our brand to build our credibility. One of the ways we do this is quarterly go into the leadership teams across the various directorates to give a temperature check on exactly where we were in relation to the automation program. We use things like our intranet, our weekly newsletter, and built internal case studies, as well as some internal branding for our new unit. We defined the purpose of, and then assembled a governance board. And we also defined the end-to-end process to deliver automation, which I'm going to go into in a little bit more detail now to illustrate how we do it. So how do we identify, assess, and prioritize the automation opportunities that we work on? So the Centre of Excellence supports the directorates to investigate, conduct initial process assessments, and prioritize their processes. These processes then get evaluated and prioritised by the governance board on a quarterly basis. Our governance board is comprised of director or head of function representatives from each directorate. Centre of Excellence will then produce a delivery schedule of the prioritised processes and progress those then through the life cycle of define, design, build, test, deploy, and monitor. And lastly, our governance board then is also responsible for the post-investment review, post the deployment of those automations. So combining all of that information into a melting pot, we stood up our cross-functional program and held our first governance board meeting in Q1 2020. And using the 120 processes that we had in the backlog, we did a bit of pre-work, prioritised the top 3 from each directorate from a suitability and return perspective, and we asked our governance board to prioritise. And then we got to work. So I guess what automations are we using? So we are using robotic process automation and conversational AI. Well, what does that even mean? Okay, so it's not tiny little robots wandering around in the place of human workers, nor is it the super scary AI like HAL from 2001: A Space Odyssey. And this may be a tongue-in-cheek slide, but it does help in demystifying what these solutions actually are when you're communicating to your internal business. So what they actually are. So robotic process automation, or RPA, it's the automation of highly manual, repetitive tasks using software, just software. It creates and deploys software robots with the ability to launch and operate other software, and it doesn't have any direct interaction with a customer. Conversational AI, or agents, is a programmatic and intelligent way of offering a conversational experience to mimic conversations with real people through digital and telecommunications technologies. It works by delivering predetermined responses based on keywords used by a customer to answer or answers to fixed questions. And these do directly interact with our customers. And we're using this technology through messaging bots. And I suppose to bring it back to what our actual strategy is and our overall objective is, ultimately, it's to improve the end-to-end customer experience and improve the productivity of all our employees by getting rid of those repetitive tasks and enabling employees to focus on the tasks that add value for the company. And we're starting with robotic process automation and conversational AI, but this is basic automation. Because we're not going to be doing intelligent automation overnight, and there is a glide path over a number of years to get there. The particular milestones that we'll go through are basic automation, where the automation consumes structured data and executes predefined instructions or steps, such as robotic process automation and conversational AI or chatbots. Once this has been mastered, the next step is then advanced automation. And this is where the automation consumes semi-structured data and executes rules or algorithms. So RPA plus an integrated chatbot, or RPA and OCR. We can then build upon what we've learned from basic and advanced automation to explore more cognitive forms of automation that are found in intelligent automation. And this is where the automation consumes unstructured data and applies machine learning or adaptive models to determine outcomes or take decisions based on past trends or predictive events. So this could be RPA with OCR and chatbots, with machine learning, with AI. So all in all, intelligent automation is our goal and our desired destination. And it's what we'll be working toward over the coming years. And by means of an example, this is an example of an infograph that we would send out to our stakeholders, confirming that a process has exited the life cycle and exited implementation. It details the team that worked on the automation, the percentage automated, the percentage of error reductions, the savings. And this is an example from an SME retentions P&L that we automated. So so last year was our first full year. Wasn't even a full year because we had quite a bit of COVID impacts, but so there's quite a few achievements that I'd like to bring you through, and I'm not going to list all of these, but suffice to say we successfully exited the RPA proof of concept earlier in the year, and we attained the ability approval to grow the capability. We deployed our first RPA bot in March and our first conversational AI chatbot in April. We achieved a total of 860k annualized savings in the first year, over 150,000 conversations contained in our chatbot, and we've built out a pipeline for 2 million savings in 2021. And we also have created that solid foundation in automation so that we can now start moving into and start testing and learning and doing pilots on advanced automation this year. So by way of lessons learned, I'm sure if you Google it, there's a huge amount of resources out there that tells you what the lessons learned about implementing automation into your organization and any of the associated pitfalls that might come with that. They're ubiquitous, but I've compiled a list here of what I have learned about intelligent automation. Firstly, getting stakeholder buy-in is crucially important. And sure, it's great to have a full cross-functional team on board, but when the rubber hits the road, it's really important to have alignment on roles, responsibilities, benefits prioritization, delivery, policies, procedures, and processes. Best process identification. It's really important to set the criteria from a time to deliver and ROI perspective so that you can win the hearts and minds of your stakeholders and business investors. In our pilot, for example, we chose to select processes in our finance and people and property function. And this was a tactical choice as these were the functions that would be our biggest advocates potentially, and also where the greater opportunity resided for automation. Benefits realization ownership. So where the benefits are financial in nature, it's important to prove that the savings are realized in some fashion. And agreed rules then of engagement between finance and the business teams, whether the savings come off the baseline or are reinvested into the business. Delivery capability. So from a momentum perspective, it's crucial to identify an automation delivery framework from process identification through the development and delivery lifecycle. The goal here is to learn fast and deliver fast to optimize ROI, but also fail fast and fail cheap, right? Too, right? From a technology support perspective, so I cannot stress enough how important this is. So we were lucky to have executive level backing, and our CIO was part of the core project team. But we'll need a number of teams across technology to support you in getting something like this up off the ground. Architects, IP networks, infrastructure, cloud infrastructure. Surprises coming out of nowhere can be an issue, but I'm sure we all know when things can sometimes actually move more slowly than you'd like. So early engagement with your technology partners is crucial. Operating model. So considering the operating model to bring automation to the business is a key decision point. And evidence suggests a centre of excellence would be the best approach. But this point also refers to how the operating model of the organisation will be impacted when benefits are realised. So this impact should be forecast and planned, and a plan established to implement it. Metrics and scorecards need to be right upfront to encourage the right behaviours in terms of any changes to your operating model. Change management. So anecdotally, we had heard tales of blockers within organisations when it came to implementing automation or robotics, as it can be seen as a threat. It came through loud and clear when we talked to other industries, other companies, either at industry trade fairs or through case studies. So it was very clear that we needed to have a robust communication plan up front. And we have now closely linked that to our Centre of Excellence brand. And lastly, operational capability. So consideration must be given to how the new digital workforce will be managed in life, along with where responsibility for this would reside. So what's next? So for 3 Ireland, 2021 now is about taking advantage. As I mentioned, we have now built a solid foundation in automation using RPA and conversational interfaces. And when we now look toward 2021 and beyond, there are many more capabilities that we can utilise as we move firstly into advanced automation and ultimately intelligent automation. One of the items that we're looking at currently is biometrics, potentially for customer verification through our IVR. We're also looking at OCR and have some good use cases for this to be used integrated with RPA and conversational AI, where document and age verification is currently a manual task. And potentially desktop automation. So we've secured a couple of licenses to support us in doing a proof of concept. And this year we're examining use cases of that. So for example, network troubleshooting on calls, a way to speed that up potentially for the end users. So thank you very much for your time and attention. And I think we're now going to move on to a Q&A section. So bear with me while I stop sharing and move into the Q&A piece. Okay, I think I'll stop sharing now.
Thank you very much, Cait, for that wonderful presentation. It was really practical and full of insights. So thank you very much for that. Could you share with us, maybe one of the biggest challenges going through the journey? Because I think automation is a journey that many companies have started embarking on. Maybe a few tips in terms of what are the potential pitfalls that they can prevent early on.
Yeah, sure, no problem. So As I mentioned early on, we were in the midst of a company-wide transformation program that was affecting all areas of the business and was swapping out a lot of our systems. So largely to our infrastructure very much remained an on-premise type of infrastructure. And we wanted to change how we were going to be using automation. So we wanted to move to a cloud infrastructure. And the main problem we had is that we were the first in the organization to adopt cloud. Now, there had been in pockets in other parts of the organization, but that was being used, but wasn't directly connected into the internal systems, which is crucial in order to be able to do automation, right? You have to be able to talk to the systems. So that was our biggest challenge with regards to getting the program off the ground, was number one, understanding what we needed to do, and number two, then actually getting it done and getting, I suppose, and having the backing from our senior leadership certainly helped us in that regard. But because there was so many different teams that needed to be involved, it just became very complicated and did delay us quite a bit with regards to getting our automation program off the ground. So that's certainly one of the biggest challenges that we've had. Certainly other challenges that we would have seen would be with regards to, making sure that the right processes get chosen for automation. As sometimes, and not attempting to, I suppose, not striving to do 100% automate things, because it's a fool's errand, really, because you're never really going to get that. So automating what you can automating and doing it quickly and then moving on, because sometimes you can get stuck in the mud if you try to automate too much of particularly a complex process.
Absolutely. So we've got one question that has come up, which is, I guess, as a good follow-up. So do you use or consider using any process mining software to help identify which processes to automate?
Yeah, we've considered it. Now, we haven't gone down the route of doing that yet. Right now, we're, in terms of our automation piece and getting the processes into our pipeline, we kind of follow two different processes or methods. Number one, we go out to the business, so we try and pull requests or pull processes out of the organization through workshops and lunch and learn sessions. And secondly, we also get the organization to push processes into us. So we recently rolled out, I'm not sure if you're aware of the software, it's called Automation Hub, which we've rolled out across the organization, where process owners have the ability to submit processes to us to automate. We may look at implementing a data mining solution down the road. Right now, we don't need to. We're pretty happy with what we've built up in our backlog from an RPA perspective, and we also have those candidates lined up for the more intelligent automation journeys or use cases that we'll be going after.
Fantastic, sounds good. I see the chats are clear now. So yeah, I just wanted to say thank you very much again, Cait, for sharing your journey. And it looks like you guys have some ambitious plans in the future as well. So very best of luck for that. So thanks again. That actually brings us to